Hi there and welcome back to my channel. Now if you've been here a while or you're a subscriber, now there's a hint, please subscribe. You'll know that I mainly concentrate my content on Cold War history and Cold War facts. So in this video we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to look at a piece of Cold War fiction, specifically the early 1980s thriller novel and later made into a 1987 Hollywood movie starring Michael Caine, The Fourth Protocol by author Frederick Forsyth. Now the reason I'm covering this subject today is because I recently uploaded a very good documentary, if I don't say so myself, called Operation Foot, about the Soviet KGB takedown by MI5 in the United Kingdom in 1971. If you haven't seen it already, please check it out, and thank you very much to the 150,000 of you that have already watched it. In that video, I mentioned that Frederick Forsyth drew his inspiration for the Fourth Protocol from the real-world Operation Foot. So after that, I got a lot of comments in the comment section, mainly from American subscribers, asking, I've never heard of this movie, where can I see it, what's the novel about, how does it differ? So I thought rather than just reply to a couple of you or add some links to Wikipedia, I thought I'd do a really in-depth review of the movie. Actually, it's a revisiting, it's about much more in-depth than just a review, and bring this 30-year-old movie back to life. Also compare it with the book. In my usual style, there'll be a lot of facts, figures, and a few opinions to keep us going. So, sit back for the next half an hour or so while we re-examine Frederick Forsyth's The Fourth Protocol.
Frederick Forsyth is a British novelist and journalist who has sold over 70 million books in his time. His most famous novel is Day of the Jackal, which is a fictionalised political thriller about an assassination plot against French President Charles de Gaulle. In 1983, Forsyth published his next novel, The Fourth Protocol, a political and espionage thriller set in the UK and the Soviet Union. The plot was that to cause the collapse of NATO and to ensure an anti-American, anti-NATO left-wing government was elected in the United Kingdom, covert KGB operatives were smuggling a nuclear weapon and detonated at an American airbase in the UK. Of course, the Americans would be blamed worldwide for having a nuclear weapons accident and the enormous loss of life it would cause. This would prompt a new left-wing government in the United Kingdom to remove all American Air Force and Navy forces from the United Kingdom. And other NATO countries, such as West Germany, would probably follow suit. The Americans would then withdraw support for NATO, leaving the Soviets free rein in Western Europe. This fictitious plot was code-named Operation Arora in the novel. Forsyth named his novel after a fictitious clause in the real-world Non-Proliferation Treaty of 1968. The secret clause would read, "The Fourth Protocol is that no nuclear power will deploy a nuclear weapon onto another state's territory by non-conventional means," effectively outlawing nuclear terrorism and covert nuclear deployments. This clause is entirely believable and maybe should have been included in the real treaty. Sadly, it is entirely fictitious and an invention of Frederick Forsyth. After publishing in 1984, The Fourth Protocol became an international bestseller almost overnight. It even inspired an early computer game based on a novel for the platforms the ZX Spectrum and the Commodore 64. Given the huge success of the novel in the mid-1980s, in 1986, British A-list actor Michael Caine approached Forsyth with a business proposition that together they co-produce a movie adaptation of the novel, particularly as Caine wanted to play the lead character in the novel, John Preston. Forsyth and Caine obtained backing from the Rank organisation, but they were given a relatively small budget of £6 million sterling. They were still, however, able to sign up some A-list Hollywood actors such as Ned Beatty, Joanna Cassidy and the up-and-coming Irish actor Pierce Brosnan. In March 1987, the Fourth Protocol movie premiered in London and a month later in New York. This is the full theatrical trailer.
As chairman of the KGB, I am giving you a direct order.
So what have we got?
He's a Russian, KGB agent.
You've been chosen for a mission of the utmost importance. If you are successful, you will return to honors beyond your dreams.
Two professionals. The KGB's best deep cover agent is coming west.
Tell Tell the first courier to proceed.
Britain's best spy catcher senses danger.
Come and see your pass.
Yes, I can tell you what it is, all right. It's polonium. That's a detonator for a bomb.
Bomb?
An atomic bomb.
You're pretty sure about this, I take it?
And somewhere out there, there's a Soviet agent assembling an atomic bomb.
Yes.
While the generals conspire.
How can anyone even contemplate breaking the fourth protocol?
We're still missing one component.
We got your message.
While the bureaucrats scheme.
I regard this report as alarmist, irresponsible, and supported by insufficient evidence.
Evidence? Can't you read?
What do you want, Preston?
Round-the-clock surveillance, 3 teams of watchers. Everything immediately.
All right, Preston, you've got it.
Have they told you anything?
Just that he's a terrorist.
Oh, he's more than just a terrorist. He is a top Soviet agent. Brother.
A test of nerves.
RAF Baywaters.
That's a US Air Force Base.
That's where he's headed.
A race against the odds.
Armed and primed. You'll have 2 hours.
2 hard men on a collision course that will destroy the secret East-West treaty they call the Fourth Protocol. Now, from Frederick Forsyth, master of the suspense thriller, best-selling author of The Day of the Jackal, comes Michael Caine.
Hey! Pull out! Pull out quickly!
Pierce Brosnan. Frederick Forsyth's The Fourth Protocol.
As the credits roll in the movie, we're introduced to our first character, Kim Philby. Philby is the only real-world character in the movie, and he is based on Britain's worst traitor, an intelligence officer in MI6, a Soviet double agent, and one of the Cambridge 5 spy ring of the 1950s. Unmasked in 1963, Philby defected to the USSR and was given the honorary rank of KGB colonel. In the novel, Philby is the KGB's UK advisor, and he is the co-author of Operation Arora with General Govorshin, the head of the KGB. However, in the movie, he only appears very briefly, played by actor Michael Caine.
I'm Kim Philby, Major. That is Colonel Philby, KGB, retired. I think you'll find I have an appointment with General Govorshin, the chairman of the KGB.
General Govorshin left 3 hours ago.
It is impossible. I was summoned for an important conference with him.
I regret the Comrade General charged me to make an alternative arrangement.
And what, pray, might that be?
It is one of the movie's greatest criticisms in comparison to the novel that the Philby character has no context and is seemingly shot without explanation in the first 2 minutes. However, it is said that Frederick Forsyth, knowing he didn't have room for a Kim Philby character in the movie's running time, just wanted to see the arch-traitor shot dead and receive karma. Frederick Forsyth may have got his wish because it's likely that the real Kim Philby got to see his Machiavellian insult in 1987. Philby actually died a year later in 1988 and was later commemorated as a hero of Soviet intelligence in a national postage stamp in 1990. The lead character, played by veteran British actor and movie co-producer Michael Caine, is John Preston, an MI5 lead investigator who uncovers the Operation Arora plot and then takes it down. We first meet Preston conducting a black bag job, a fake burglary on the London flat of corrupt Tory Minister Berenson.
James, Happy New Year.
What flat do you want, sir?
I've got the reinforcements for Nigel.
Yes, but what flat number, sir?
Don't worry. I'll follow the noise.
It has been remarked on that Michael Caine wanted to play Preston because this was a chance for him to re-portray a character from his youth, a mid-1960s MI5 agent called Harry Palmer.
Michael Caine. He walks straight into sensational stardom in The Ipcress File, as he gets right under the skin of the brash, cocky, wry-humoured Harry Palmer. Soldier seconded from the army for security duties, who's never far away from a girl, and always...
Of course, Harry Palmer is a Len Dayton character, not a Frederick Forsyth one. So John Preston is, in effect, a middle-aged Harry Palmer, world-weary and now a single father.
And from Poland. And they all came into Heathrow in February and March, and nobody could pronounce their names.
The most obvious character comparison between Harry Palmer and John Preston is that both characters are working class. Both detest the British upper-class establishment and revel in insubordination.
You deliberately try to embarrass the service in front of that shit Irving. Of course, I'm well aware that you somehow consider yourself as outside the normal chain of command. But let me remind you that this is a service, not a free-for-all. And when you've finished showing off, you come back to work for me. And I, as Director General of the Security Service...
Acting Director General. Bernard Hemmings isn't dead yet.
Look, Preston. Let's get this straight. If, or rather when, I am confirmed as head of this department, you are just going to disappear without trace.
I will bear that in mind.
Meantime, I want another report, complete in every detail, on my desk before you go home.
Would that include this meeting, sir?
Do it!
Preston seems to have done all right for himself financially though, because even on a MI5 high executive officer's salary, he lives in a West London Mews house, the location of which is 101 Eastbourne Mews, which if you bought today would cost you about £4.5 million. The Soviets we meet throughout the movie, i.e. the bad guys, are all played by non-Russians, and they are Major Petrofsky, played by Pierce Brosnan, Colonel Irina Vasilievna, played by Joanna Cassidy, General Gavorshin, the head of the KGB, played by Alan North, General Borisov, KGB Investigations, played by Ned Beatty, playing Ned Beatty. Ray McNally plays General Karpov, Preston's opposite number and a KGB lead investigator. And finally, Major Pavlov, played by Michael Jackson, no, not that Michael Jackson, is Gavorshin's bodyguard. Something criticised at the time, but now is an accepted acting practice, is that all the Soviets keep their own national accents. They don't put on fake Russian accents. So General Borisov, played by Ned Beatty, has a very broad American accent. Beyond accents, the KGB headquarters is designed to resemble Langley, Virginia. And General Karpov, head of investigations, instead of wearing a stereotypical Soviet uniform, wears a business suit. He's in his office watching CNN, and he could be the equivalent of a CIA director. The use of American actors with broad American accents playing Soviets was a deliberate move by Frederick Forsyth, because the movie, which is British-centric, compares both the Soviet Union and USA as morally and politically the same, and therefore unwelcome in the UK. There is a very subtle, maybe not so subtle with the McWhirter characters, anti-American subtext throughout the movie. The bad guy in the movie, played by Pierce Brosnan, is Major Valeri Alexievich Petrofsky, a highly trained Soviet KGB illegals officer who specialises in Britain. Exceptionally ruthless, Petrofsky kills almost everybody he meets on Operation Arora. He is tasked by General Gavorshin to infiltrate the UK and detonate a nuclear weapon next to an American Air Force base. To do this, he adopts the legend of the British businessman
James Edward Ross.
An unfortunate and maybe inevitable criticism in the present day of the movie is that its portrayal of its two main female characters, who we'll meet in a minute, is at least sexist, if not misogynistic. This, of course, is nonsense. In fact, whilst the movie may be in the action genre and more male-centric, certainly the casting of Pierce Brosnan was intended to appeal to female audiences. Brosnan, who had been a male model in the 1970s, achieved his leading man acting breakthrough as the lead in the US female-friendly detective series Remington Steele. Thanks in large part to his role in the Fourth Protocol, 7 years later, Brosnan would go on to portray James Bond 007 in the movie GoldenEye. Forsyth took his inspiration for the role of Petrofsky from a real KGB illegals officer and a ladies' man, Oleg Lylin, whose plot to contaminate a Scottish lock with highly radioactive material, for which the US Navy would be blamed, was uncovered during Operation Foot in 1971. Now we've met the main characters, let's get back to the action. In the movie, the Berenson story is an integral part of Operation Arora and runs throughout the entire novel. But in the movie, it is a separate, standalone subplot. In the novel, the character of Berenson is a corrupt senior civil servant, an employee of the government. But in the movie, he is now portrayed as a Conservative Party junior defence minister. And this is a political sea change from the original novel, which was highly antagonistic towards the British Labour Party. But the novel was written in the early 80s. By the time the film came to be produced, the Conservative Party were in their third term of government, and an easy target for a corrupt minister. Under Secretary Berenson is played brilliantly by actor Anton Rogers, and is portrayed as a pompous, upper-class Tory, who of course lives in a stereotypical stately home and drives a Range Rover. The real filming location for Berenson's stately home is Chicheley Hall in Buckinghamshire. So this is Chicheley Hall, near Milton Keynes. And in the movie, it's the stately home of the pompous Tory minister Berenson, later proved to be a traitor and an unwitting Soviet spy. Today, it's a hotel, a wedding venue. Of course, Berenson is a traitor, and back in London, he finds his government apartment trashed and top-secret documents he's stolen from the Ministry of Defence missing, so he sets out across London to meet his foreign handler. But MI5 know what Berenson is up to and have him under surveillance. What then follows in the movie is a very realistic portrayal of an MI5 mobile surveillance operation. A team of MI5 surveillance operatives trail Berenson across London and into the London Underground network, starting at Hyde Park Corner Station. The obviously jittery and nervous Berenson constantly changes direction on the tube system, looking over his shoulder to make sure he's not being followed, when in fact, every time he changes direction, a new MI5 operator picks up the trail. This is quite accurate and is a good portrayal of surveillance tradecraft. Berenson, the subject, is being trailed by a team of about 20 to 30 surveillance operatives. He will never see the same operative twice, so therefore will never be able to formulate suspicion, and the operatives blend in perfectly with the background. A larger middle-aged woman, a young businesswoman, an older male and a young black guy with a Walkman. And even an impulsive change of direction is already factored in, and on the opposite platform, another MI5 officer waiting to pick up the trail. With Berenson convinced that he's not being followed, erroneously of course, he heads to his final location, High Street, Kensington, in southwest London. Incidentally, having lived in London, this is a great part of London and a great night out. I thoroughly recommend it.
Chammy's gone to ground. Pizzeria on Phillimore Walk.
It's a long way to go for a pizza. I think we'll join him.
The pizzeria on Phillimore Walk in the movie is still there 35 years later, now called Carluccio's.
Don't you like your pizza, Mr. Berenson? No, we don't go. It's a drop. Manager again? Who gets special service? He does.
And it's here we meet Jan Murray, Berenson's spymaster handler. Another failing of the conversion between the novel and the movie is that Jan Murray is barely mentioned in the movie, but forms a large part of the Berenson subplot in the novel. Murray is a South African diplomat, and Berenson is passing NATO nuclear secrets to apartheid-era South Africa, who, it has to be remembered, were supported by the British Conservatives in the late 1980s, and this is another Frederick Forsyth jab at the Conservative Party. Naturally, Jan Murray ends up back at South Africa House, the South African consulate in Trafalgar Square in London, the scene of many anti-apartheid demos in the late 1980s. With Berenson's guilt now proven, we return to Chicheley Hall in the movie, and an excellent opportunity for me to fly my drone over the location. For what is possibly the best scene in the whole movie. Head of British Intelligence, Sir Nigel Irving, played brilliantly by Ian Richardson, takes down Berenson in a manner so chilling he could be a upper-class English Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. I'll play the whole scene for you.
Hello, Angela. Nigel Irving.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. How silly of me. Were we expecting you?
Not exactly. Do you mind if we come in?
No. Please do.
Is George in?
Yes, of course. Darling!
In North Wales, severe blizzards have...
Hello, George.
Nigel. How nice.
I wonder if we might have a quiet word.
Yes, of course. Do sit down.
Quiet New Year's holiday? You're not missing something, are you?
What do you want, Nigel?
I thought you might be missing something. Like this. These are yours, I believe. But these, beyond a doubt, never were.
I don't suppose there's much I can say, is there?
I don't know. Try me.
All right. Well, for years now I've taken the attitude that there was only one struggle on this planet worth a damn. The fight against world communism. And it has long seemed to me ridiculous that the most committed anti-communists in the Southern Hemisphere, the South Africans, should be excluded from NATO planning because of some unfashionable domestic attitudes.
So was this your idea? Or did someone approach you?
I met someone at a party.
Or did he meet you? Jan Murray.
Seems our Secret Service is up to scratch.
Just what exactly have you been passing him? It would be awfully helpful to know.
I gave him any relevant documents to NATO that crossed my desk.
NATO. Mm-hmm. Well, I hope they didn't pay you in cash, Berenson. The rand's taken a bit of a dive lately.
I didn't do it for money. I did it because I believed it was right.
A man of principle to the last.
You can bloody well sneer, Irving. But perhaps I'm more of a patriot than you are.
You may be interested in this. It's an extract from the debriefing of a recent Soviet defector, which pinpoints a Soviet agent in the South African Foreign Service. And this is a summation of the South African internal investigation, which identifies the man as one Jan Murray. You've betrayed your country. You've passed untold numbers of secrets to Moscow and endangered the lives of British men and women. And I'd say you've weakened NATO, perhaps irretrievably. Oh, my God. Just you and your schoolboy politics and your idiotically conceited faith in your own importance. Now, some of our more muscular colleagues favor taking you to a cell and going to work on you with a carving knife and a pair of pliers. The rest would like to feed you to the newspapers and throw what's left into prison for 20 years. It's a tricky choice, isn't it? However, this is what you will do. You will resume your special relationship with Moscow. Only this time, I shall be supplying the papers. Understand? Then later, when we've finished, we can decide what to do with you.
The acting is even better considered when you remember that Anton Rogers, who plays Berenson, is normally a sitcom actor, and he's in an unusual straight role here. In the novel, it is through Berenson that Nigel Irving alerts General Karpov in the KGB of General Govorshin and Kim Philby's Operation Arora plot. Back on Operation Arora, Major Petrofsky, now undercover as James Edward Ross, is setting up his forward operating base next to the Baywaters American Airforce Base, and is having a house viewing with possibly the poshest real estate agent in England, Jill Dunkley.
Mr. Ross?
Yes?
I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm Jill Dunkley.
How do you do?
Absolute bloody mayhem out there.
I'm sorry?
It's the traffic. Quite frightful. I got stuck for half an hour behind some motorised carrot pulper or something. Anyway, I gather you're looking for 3 months left.
Yes.
A bit of Hollywood trivia now. The bit part of Jill Dunkley was played by Julia Verdin in a very early acting role, which I'm sure she's very embarrassed about, because now in 2023, Julia Verdin is an award-winning director and producer. The filming location for Petrofsky's forward operating base was the estate of Tranland Brig in Milton Keynes, England, because in 1986 this estate was newly built but was unoccupied, making it an ideal film set for the movie, and it stands in for Rendlesham in Suffolk, which we'll explore in a minute. In 2023 you'll find the estate of Tranland Brig is a fairly rundown working class estate. By no stretch is it the worst type of estate you'll find in England, but not a particularly nice place to live. However, you will still pay £250,000 sterling to buy the house that Petrofsky rents from Jill Dunkley. When I was here filming for the channel, I got talking to a couple of the older residents who still remember when Michael Caine and his film crew were here 37 years earlier making the movie.
Then there's the bathroom, and this is the second bedroom.
More Julia Verdin being posh, and also a bit of movie magic, because Tranland Brig is nowhere near any American air base. In fact, the house that Petrofsky is viewing, the rear garden view, is of trees, not an air base.
One does hear the occasional sound from the Baywaters American Air Base, but I hope it doesn't bother you.
Although not named in either novel or movie, Tranland Brig is standing in for the village of Rendlesham in Suffolk, next to the now former RAF Bentwaters. The village sign clearly lays out the village's history.
Okay, so behind me now is the perimeter fence to the former RAF Bentwaters Air Base. I'm walking now into the estate where, in the book, Petrofsky would have set up his forward operating base. It's in a small village called Rendlesham. It differs significantly from the movie, and I'll show you why. In the book, the target of the KGB and Major Petrofsky's atom bomb attack is RAF Bentwaters in Suffolk, which during the Cold War was a US Air Force fighter base and closed in 1993 after the end of the Cold War. For some reason, in the movie, it's called RAF Baywaters. I've no idea why they changed the name. Frederick Forsyth has done really good research for this novel because the village of Rendlesham, the civilian housing located here on the air photograph, is about a mile away from what was once the nuclear weapons store for RAF Bentwaters. Obviously, it's empty now. It's a civilian industrial estate. It is private property, but the former nuclear weapons store is still extant today. Although I do need to point out, for accuracy's sake, that all the US Air Force footage, the fighters and the base and perimeter, was filmed at RAF Upper Hayford, which was much closer to the Tranlambrig film set than RAF Bentwaters. And this is a final pan of RAF Bentwaters' nuclear weapons storage area and panning towards the village of Rendlesham, where Petrofsky's forward operating base would have been. Let's take a look at that now. In the 1980s, during the Cold War, Rendlesham was a mix of British civilians and US Air Force personnel housing. And that brings us on to our next set of characters, probably the most divisive characters in the movie, and another plot mechanism, the McWhirters.
Hey Jim, me and Eileen been figuring you could use a little entertainment.
Well, actually, I'm rather busy at the moment.
Well, hell, you ain't too busy to be watching TV. Why don't you come down to the base for a few beers?
Yes, all right. Thank you. That would be lovely. Just give me a couple of minutes, okay?
In the book, Petrofsky dupes the McWhirters into signing him into the US Air Force Base for a night out in the enlisted man's club, but mainly so he can conduct a close reconnaissance of the nuclear weapons store. In the movie, though, this realistic tactical element of the plot is forgotten about, and Forsyth has turned the McWhirters into a not-so-subtle target of the movie's anti-American theme. I feel bad for American actor Matt Frewer. He has the thankless task of being the fall guy for Forsyth's stereotypical depiction of American servicemen in the UK, playing the brash but ultimately dim-witted Tom McWhirter, who, with his faithless American Air Force wife Eileen, find themselves unwitting neighbours to Petrofsky's forward mounting base. Airman Tom is deliberately written to be irritating and embarrassing, particularly so when he challenges and ultimately fails in a drinking competition with Petrofsky, leaving his adulterous wife free to pounce on her new neighbour. The other half of the embarrassing American Air Force couple is the sweet but predatory Eileen McWhirter, played by actress Betsy Brantley in a very early role, cast for her all-American girl-next-door looks. Eileen's purpose in the movie is a bit more nuanced than Tom's. Her character's purpose is to convey general American apathy for their deployment to the UK, to convey that the British dislike their presence and the pointlessness of the mission, all part of Frederick Forsyth's political theme for the novel. And then poor Eileen gets brutally rejected by Petrofsky, but she is fortunate that she is one of the few characters he doesn't kill.
Yeah, you get real bored around here. These people treat us like such dopes. To tell the truth, I sometimes wonder what we're doing here at all.
Yes, I can understand that.
Do you get bored too, Jimmy? Bored stiff?
I ought to be getting back.
The main female co-star of the movie is Blade Runner's Joanna Cassidy, playing Colonel Irina Vasilievna. In Forsyth's novel, Vasilievna is male, but for the movie, the role is turned into a female one, intended to add a lead female character.
Sadly though, much of Cassidy's role is cut, leaving her backstory, including how Gavorshin ordered her to construct a non-attributable nuclear weapon to smuggle into the UK. This lack of context has led to criticism that she has been cast just to sex up the plot, which is unfair. Vasilievna is older than Petrofsky, and she is senior in rank. Her military role is a realistic one, as are her Soviet decorations. In this promo still taken from the movie, Cassidy is wearing a Soviet artillery uniform, and her character has been awarded the Hero of Socialist Labour Medal, the Order of Lenin Medal, and Homeland Defence Class 3 Medal. So she is highly decorated for a Soviet army officer, male or female. Sadly though, because that part of her role was cut, we never see Colonel Vasilievna in uniform or in the Soviet Union. We first meet her when she arrives in London undercover, the purpose of which is to assemble the nuclear weapon and arm it for Petrofsky.
Mrs. Vatanen, how was your journey from Finland?
Very comfortable, thank you. Mr. Ross.
Let me take your bags.
Irina Vasilievna of the Soviet Army Artillery Research Directorate.
Specializing in the design and construction of atomic shells, I know. Valeri Petrofsky, how do you do?
How do you do?
Unfortunately...
Back at the Rendlesham house, Vasilievna and Petrofsky assemble and arm the nuclear weapon. Now, there's much comment online about how unrealistic this is and that they would both die of radiation sickness as a result. This is wrong. The scene is fairly accurate and is taken from the Manhattan Project. 20 kilograms of subcritical highly enriched uranium would be emitting around 3 millisieverts an hour of gamma and neutron radiation. So therefore Irina could handle this device quite safely for about 30 hours. Although Irina's workbench is a health and safety nightmare, and also her criticality safety is on a suicidal level equivalent of Louis Slotin's. Another real-world influence in both the movie and the novel is the discovery of a KGB Black Ops radio transmitter site, in this case run by two Greek cafe owners in Essex in England. Preston discovers this while trying to track down Petrofsky, and this is a direct lift from the real Operation Foot in 1971, which saw two Greek Cypriots jailed for 4 and 6 years for running a KGB Black Ops transmitter. The location for filming the cafe scenes was the Saltcote Sailing Club in Malden, Essex in England, which is a very realistic 15 miles away from RAF Bentwaters. One of the biggest criticisms of the movie is that for an action movie it is 90% dialogue and 10% action, so the movie ends on a very expensive action sequence, where Preston tasks the SAS to assault the Rendlesham house containing Petrofsky, Vasilievna and a live nuclear weapon. Not knowing, of course, that Vasilievna is already dead, killed by Petrofsky on Gavorshin's orders. The location for aerial filming of the SAS assault team's arrival by helicopter is the River Orwell road bridge, constructed in 1982 and located about 15 miles south of RAF Bentwaters.
And there you have it. Although it is a great action sequence, it is completely unrealistic and a bit of a plot hole. Think about it. Why fly the SAS standby troop in, which is after all a covert unit, in broad daylight, and then showboat by flying the helicopters underneath the Orwell Bridge in full view of the public, and then compound the problem by landing the helicopters in Ipswich city centre? Would it have not made more tactical sense to wait till nightfall and then land the helicopters discreetly at RAF Bentwaters, which after all is an operating airfield, right next to the target out of public view? You know the reason why, don't you? Because the director needed to add action to a dialogue-heavy movie, and I think he secretly just wanted to fly helicopters under the Orwell Bridge.
And then at nightfall, the SS assault goes in. And this is fairly well acted and fairly realistic. Any criticism of Petrofsky's killing of Vasilevna should be tempered by the fact that she booby-trapped the nuclear device to kill him when he activated the timer. Not that he gets a chance. In summary, and to finish this video off, we've looked at the movie and its main scenes. But what is missing from the movie and this YouTube video is all the politics, both Cold War American and British politics, and MI5 procedural tradecraft, which makes the novel vastly better than the movie. And for that reason, I thoroughly recommend you read the novel, and I've included a couple of links where you can buy the novel from Amazon in my description. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye now.